The second part of leadership lessons is lead yourself to lead others. You can only lead others as much as you have led yourself. The first leadership lesson under lead yourself to lead others is cultivate a growth mindset. Karthik, you have shared often how a growth mindset is important. Could you share something in context here?
Thanks, Prasanna. I got to know about the growth mindset philosophy much later in my life, into my 30s, about 15 years after my corporate life. There have been a couple of instances where I had the awareness, but I'll probably choose, for the sake of consistency and a single story narration, my journey into entrepreneurship, where I got to apply it, or I'm continuing to apply it. So when I started my journey as a game designer, initially I was into board and card game design, and I was using only that as a mechanism to discuss with customers, and I had a belief that that is the best in the world, and one digital games have their disadvantage, and they have their overheads and all that. And the story, the limiting belief in me that I cannot design digital games. So several of those actually were going on. So the conversation used to be like, I don't have something, and therefore I will not even pursue that opportunity. That's a classic example of a very fixed mindset, right? I will be very limited in my offerings because I only know them. It led to phases where I ended up not even trying to understand problem statements of customers, and not having an opportunity to even attempting to solve them because of this limitation. It took a while, and it also resulted in a series of weeks and months without opportunities. And it took quite a bit of mentorship and self reflection to realize that I was having this limiting belief. One of the critical moments was when the pandemic struck, where board and card games was really made impossible because people had to social distance and remain in their houses. That's when I was kind of forced to move digital, right? I mean, whatever I was resisting all along, I started had to embrace. And there were many like me, but I also had to go through this journey. Now, again, the story started creeping. Will I be able to do? I don't have the resource power. I don't have the expertise, and all those stories. And the initial few days, it was more like, how do I convert whatever I did in board and card into literally into digital forms? I spent a lot of time exploring, discussing with people, and literally tried converting it. After a point of time, I realized that these two are different worlds, although they had a similarity, but they had their differences. And the other insight that I had was, I had to do all alone, right? Everything had to be done by myself, was some thing that I had in my mind. That also, I was able to break that barrier. I realized that, okay, one cannot solve all problems alone. One had to partner with the right people, right? People who had their expertise. So my expertise was broadly in the game area of games. So the specific expertise which was available in the form of digital game providers was with other people and other companies. So I started exploring them, and this really opened up my mind to the world that was already existing, but I was unaware of. So I moved from a phase of being fixated into a world of possibilities. So it opened me to a plethora of games that could be played under very different conditions, and each had its own benefits too. I started really appreciating the beauty of digital games, not just in the remote world, but in terms of the different kinds of problems they solved, and also got to know a lot of partners who actually provided them in different corporate and educational contexts. So I started partnering with them and started co providing solutions. and that resulted in really, really good offerings and end client benefits. So for that, I had to really go through this phase where I was fixated originally, not willing to open up myself. I was too results focused because initially I knew only certain things. I will play to that tune, and I will need immediate results. That was the story that I was operating earlier. I moved to a phase of let me explore, let me partner, let me figure out the solutions together, working with the client, working with the partner. And this is a new journey that I've been embarking on for the last couple of years. And I still am amazed at how much I don't know and how much I continue to discover. But this has been a real breakthrough for me personally, and it is also yielding excellent results because I am operating in the zone of learning and possibilities rather than pre fixed outcomes. So it's extremely important to be explorative, to be curious, to open yourselves to what all is possible rather than knowing it all. The knowing it all, I know all mindset is a very limiting mindset. Whereas I'm here to learn, I'm here to put in efforts, and I'm here to explore is the way to be. And this is my story of embracing the growth mindset.
The second leadership lesson under lead yourself to lead others is manage your time and energy. We lead busy lives, so many things to do, but only just about 24 hours in a day. Is time management alone enough, or do we need to do something about our energy? Shiva is a very busy man. He has so many things to do. He has found a way to convert his busyness to be easiness. Shiva, what's your secret to time management? What is your go to recharge activity?
Thanks, Prasanna, for asking that question. See, I don't manage time. I manage myself. That's the most important thing because that's the most difficult thing, challenging one. So I try and find out how to manage myself. I know my strengths and weaknesses, what I can do well, what I cannot do well, and therefore managing myself for time is how I look at it. And I'll also touch upon the energy levels. How do I keep up the energy levels? My days are not long, but they are short because I'm always finding it to be short of time. In that sense, it is. I find it that way. Early on, when I started looking at myself and managing myself for time, uh, there were many things where I would miss out. Sometimes what would happen is one of those things that I have to do would be nagging my mind. Right? So one tip that I got from someone is, why don't you just put it on paper what you have to do? Right? When I started doing that, I realized the value of it. Not because I have the list and I have to perform. It is because it is somewhere there waiting for me to look at and be able to do. So, in that sense, the to do list made a lot of sense. And till today, I keep doing this. There are a lot of apps today, so it's possible to get this done in the way that I want it to happen. We all have, apart from core values, what is it that we definitely need to do? If that is in the top of our mind, it helps us prioritize, right? What is important, what is urgent, have to do right now, or it's something that even if it takes time, I should do it, right? There are things that may be waiting for some time, but may be important for us to complete. So how do we prioritize is also something that goes into managing our own selves. I do this very often. For example, if I have to make sure that I don't forget to do something. For example, day for yesterday, I had to take the file that concerned a particular meeting. So what I did was I put the by key inside that file, so that it made it easy for me to start that process very easily. The other thing that I do is, if it is a job that is continuing, I sort of break the sentence and leave it at that. Because the next day when I come and let's say I need to start working on my paper, the sentence is incomplete. So the mind automatically feels, oh, okay, this sentence has to be completed. The moment that sentence completion occurs, it becomes easier for me to get into that groove, right? They often say, um, do what you love. But I go with the phrase, love what you do. It helps a lot, because many things are not in your hands. And therefore, it is better that we frame ourselves, train ourselves into love what we are doing. It has greatly helped me when I shift this towards that. Being aware of energy boosters and energy drainers is also important. Sometimes we just stretch ourselves too much, and therefore our body and mind have a capacity, and if we don't understand that capacity, then it's not going to help us in terms of performing throughout the day. So we need to understand when to take a break, how to take a break, right? Many people don't do this, but I do this. My siesta is very important. I wake up early, and if I don't have siesta, then my energy levels go down. I have this uh, energy drainer that happens, and therefore one recharge that I do is to have a fantastic 45-minute siesta. Nobody can disturb me at that time. It helps me a lot in terms of coming back and starting off with full energy. And of course, through the day, if you're able to put it in your journal as to how all your energy levels are changing, it helps you in terms of arranging, number one, the tasks that you have. For example, early in the morning, the energy levels are beautiful. It may be a good idea to use that for certain creative work, right? I meditate in the morning, as Karthik said. I meditate in the morning. If time permits, I have an hour's duration of meditation. Else, I shorten it and make it more effective. And there are many other recharging. One other thing that I do is I just go for a very short. I'm not going to say walk, but a stroll back and forth if the space does not permit. The other is to just, because it's important to break the monotony and go to the next. How do you break the monotony? You involve in some other activity. What that activity should be is such that it recharges yourself. Okay, if it is food that recharges you, better to do it. If it is a small amount of let's say coffee that does it, I don't do it. I do it in a different way. Strolling is one of the ways that I do. uh, I also watch something which is a very short video or audio on, let's say if it is music, I just listen to the music for a very short while. It recharges me, and then I go back to that level. The energy level goes up. So that's how I manage my own self for time and the energy levels of mine.
Gary Keller, in his book The One Thing, asks two powerful focusing questions. The first one is, what is a one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything will be easier or unnecessary? What must I do right now to be on the path to getting the big picture one thing? What is the bullseye? Siva All of us have goals, aspirations, and dreams, and it can become overwhelming at times. What is your one thing, and how does it help you achieve more? I know it sounds counterintuitive. How does the one thing help you achieve more in life?
It's nothing challenging. It helps you in terms of refocus yourself. That one thing for my own personal self is joy. Take anything, for example, whatever you do, you're doing that because eventually you want to connect to joy, right? And therefore, that one thing that I always keep in mind is it connecting to that joy? If it is connecting to the joy, how is it going to connect? And how is it that I'm going to get that done? Right? So all fall in place when you have one thing that you want in life. Right? So in this case, I said joy, and therefore all your goals, etc., will get aligned towards that. Your aspiration, right? So if you ask me, if every moment of my life is joy, that's what I want. So it becomes an aspiration, right? It's also a dream. When I set a goal, for example, let's say I'm going to read a book and therefore enjoy it, right? When I do that, it leads to another uh, goal automatically. Okay, because there is a content in the book, and the content in the book is going to tell you something which may be valuable to you, and therefore it takes you to another. From one to the other is how goals go. People call it as goal post. uh, when I when all of us actually cracked JE, that was not enough. We had to shift our goalpost. But the goals keep shifting. But along the way, instead of waiting for the final moment to happen, if the moment happens every time, it'll be nice. So in a way, I should enjoy having cracked JE, right? And then the next, and then the next, right? Instead of waiting for something to happen. So that's one thing that. So keeping the joy. So I usually put it as enjoy, being with joy. So in that sense, that one thing is helping me a lot in my life. When it does not connect, what do I do? I go back to the previous one I told you. You love what you do, so automatically the joy connects us. You will be able to achieve the other goal. It's just from my personal perspective that when I did this over and over, it was easier to connect to the goals that I had set. Of course, during life, the course changes here and there. But whatever be the course, the final destination is known to us when we fix our one thing in life. What is that one thing they say, no? That one thing in life.
The fourth leadership lesson under Lead Yourself to Lead Others is communicate effectively. Not communicating effectively can lead to misunderstandings, loss of information, rework, and cascading impact on time, energy, and costs. Colonel, please share some of your insights and wisdom.
See, I think everything in life, whether it is personal or professional, begins with communication and ends with communication. Problems, if any, begin with communication sometimes. And every time, all the problems that begin with communication ends with communication, whether it is arbitration or whatever. Uh, Now, as far as this communicating effectively is concerned, I throughout our lives, what I have, at least what I have done on my part was, I realized the importance of vocabulary. So I remember somewhere long ago, of course, I had that two, three books of word building and vocabulary building and things like that. Not just that, I had a 400-page register those days. And every day I used to collect some new words which I did not know. Besides, of course, reading anywhere I read some word which I did not know, I used to look up the dictionary, and even that I used to note down. I think everybody does the same thing. Uh, Except, of course, I don't know, some people do have, by whatever gift they have, they tend to speak better, learn better, and communicate better. So, besides having that rich vocabulary, what is important is the communication which is non-verbal in nature. When I say non-verbal in nature, your eyes speaks a lot. You will find olden time movies, eyes used to speak more than words. That is how we used to describe good actors and actresses. And the tone, the tenor in which we communicate matters a lot. That that enables the other fellow to understand in what mood I am, and similarly for me to understand in what mood the other fellow who is communicating is. And as far as listening is concerned, the very listen itself is not hearing. I heard a speech is different. I listened to, I heard. Hearing is something which is very broad brush in nature, and listening is something which is by intent. You are absorbing everything that is being spoken by the speaker, and therefore listening actively makes one not only improve his wisdom, learning more, but also in encouraging the speaker to speak more, and thus share the knowledge which is being transferred. Being silent is also a communication, and they say the power of silence is quite enormous. If somebody is silent for a long time, there is a little bit of concern in the community where he is living, in the surroundings. Why is he silent? Because there is something that he is communicating without speaking even a single word. So, power of silence is also there, which we should take into uh, our aspects of working. One another point that I think is important in communication is the college going students, kids, they think speaking fast like Shatabdi Express is good communication. Whereas you find as you grow older and older, you find people slowing down. They slow down. The pause is, they give pauses, the punctuation is used even while speaking, and that makes your communication more effective. So, pause is very important. And therefore, all I can say is in order to be an effective communicator in whichever job you're doing, the first thing is know the job yourself. Second is know what the other fellow is supposed to do. Having known what is your job and the other fellow's job, understand the requirement of both the doer and the instructor to what is to be achieved. Once these three aspects are very clear, then you can list down the points that are to be conveyed and communicate at ease.
Well said, Colonel. You started with talking about how hearing is different from listening. And we can go in the hierarchy of hearing, listening, feeling, and getting immersed in it, in the conversation, in the communication. So if the hierarchy goes up and up, you feel the communication has served its purpose, it has served its meaning, right? Many times I grew up for words, but over time I found that words are like pearls. If you connect the pearls with nicely, you get a beautiful necklace. So I've seen many of you, including you, Colonel, that you have used the words so nicely, and therefore when you put it into a necklace, and everybody wishes to wear it.
The fifth leadership lesson under lead yourself to lead others is be emotionally. Emotional intelligence is the ability of a person to understand and handle emotions in oneself and others. So it kind of builds self awareness, because once you start understanding what you are going through, it becomes much more easier to understand and be empathetic of what others are going through. It is commonly believed that when it comes to job hireability, employers place a premium to EQ over IQ. Karthik, please share how practicing emotional resilience has helped you in the workplace, in your work, and in your life as overall.
Early in my life, until about college years, I had a very narrow view of the world, and that was formed mainly based on the society I moved in, which valued a lot of IQ or aptitude. Yeah, it gave a lot more importance to what you studied, how much you scored, and your IQ, essentially the IQ. And that made one believe that that is the most important thing. There weren't any systems or even awareness that there was more to it. Okay, and when things were working, when you are doing well on your own, and there is another main shift that happens, and during your study days you are alone, and your capabilities depend on only on yourself, right? The amount of hard work you put in, and how much you study, etc. But there is a big shift that happens when you shift over to working in teams. Most likely, I would say, I'll use the example of corporates, which is where I went into, but I can broadly extend it to anything, uh, any form of life. It could be even academics. So, where you have to work together with others, and because there's no, honestly, there's no siloed work, and one realizes that much later in life. Uh, that's when there is much more. Even though emotions existed in the early part of life, also the awareness that emotions have a big bearing on our productivity and others' productivity started dawning much later in life, because there is no one to point that out, or nor did I have the ability to self-reflect. And therefore, also with the fact that you are very charged and want results immediately, you get upset with yourself or with others, you have high expectations of yourself and with others, that results in a varied set of unproductive emotions, be it in the form of worry, anger, frustration, etc., etc. And to some extent, you realize that by being angry, frustrated, upset, you can get on in life. That also is an illusion, because the others start feeling bad for you and they start cooperating. But that's actually the sad part, because one can only go so much with those. The deeper discovery that happens later is that unless one gets to recognize themselves going through these phases, and are accepting and are able to self lift from these unproductive emotions into a calm and balanced state, that's really when one is productive. And it took a lot of experiences in my life and also mentorship from good mentors to recognize these flaws and also correct them. And ever since I started doing that, I could see significantly an alternate way that I'm viewing myself and the team around me, and in terms of the concept of productivity and joy at work itself. So earlier I used to be a very angry person, emotionally upset person. Not that I have mastered completely, but I can definitely say that with time, the intensity of emotion, the duration that the emotion lasts, have significantly reduced. I start looking at when things go wrong, what else can I do? I start introspecting, are there alternates out? Or can I accept them and try out later rather than just freaking out on myself or on the people around? And that actually gives a better perspective and helps me come up with more creative ideas. If A doesn't work, there is a good quote. If solution A doesn't work, there are 25 other letters. There are million solutions possible if you are not stuck with one, particularly if you are not getting upset and bound with one solution. We need that calm space in our mind to even think of the other 25 possibilities. And this self awareness is something that is worth developing at an early age. Uh, it comes, number one, with self reflection. It comes by seeking mentorship from people who are wiser with age and experience. It also comes with developing some conscious daily habits and practices like meditation, journaling. So a combination of factors helps us become better as a person. And all of these also help me to varying extents as I navigate along life.
As leaders, if you imagine, people who approach leaders would have not only problems but also want to share something that is good that has happened to them, right? So when they come, they may come with this, which is a challenge, or they may come with sharing something that has happened as good. Now a leader as such has to balance these two, because emotionally completely divergent ones, right? One is something that you feel a little drained out, little bad about, and one thing where you have to share the happiness that they have come to share with you. So in a way, these ups and downs that happen, when you are able to balance that emotion of a happy mood and something that is not so happy, is some trait that is belonging of a leader.
The sixth leadership lesson under Lead Yourself to Lead Others is embrace change. We talk about change in the teamwork module, managing change in the workplace, and how to lead teams through change. Since change has become such a constant and uncertain in our lives these days, thanks to COVID, it is important to expect change and be prepared for change. Not resist it, but embrace it. Find ways to work through it, embrace the lessons and the insights that we gain, cultivate a growth mindset, build emotional resilience, take care of oneself. Uh, all these not only help lead yourself through thick and thin, but also lead others through the most trying changes.
Change is the essence of life. Change is something which we have to, I don't know whether we face it, we manage it, or we let it happen. So it can be anything. that is happening with change. Change can be in terms of your own personality, changes in your physique, in the physical sense, changes in your thoughts and minds, in terms of the environment in which you grow, the education that you have, and the experiences that you have. So, all these things are, with these things as a background to the change in life, I would, I will now invite Karthik sir to give us an example or his experience in the corporate world, uh, while he was in the corporate world, while he was in various during his study period as a student, and also after leaving the studies, finishing his studies, and this career in the corporate world, he is now on his own, uh, connecting people through games. Over to Karthik.
Like as you rightly said, change is the only constant thing. Let me go back to the study days and the shift to the corporate and touch upon that a little bit. As I said earlier, it is moving from individual work to teamwork. That is the single biggest change that one comes across. The other one is getting along with different kinds of people and personalities, likes, dislikes, as well as habits. So it's actually the teamwork incorporates all of this, and this change is a significant one that most of us undergo. And the other thing is, either in the corporate world, every customer is different. Although we may be claiming that we are experts in one area, or we are serving a particular product or a service, and that's uniform and all that, every customer will have his or her own preferences, or organization may have their own preferences. So that is a change that one has to battle with. The other thing is the teammates that you come across, that will be they'll be constantly changing. Your hierarchy, your immediate boss and the leadership, the top leadership of your department, that would keep changing periodically. And sometimes even the company head. The company head changes either because of natural transitions or because of mergers, acquisitions. There are so many kinds of changes that keep happening constantly, and each one of them has either a direct effect or a ripple effect, indirect effect on one's functioning. Other significant change that I had to undergo was choosing to become a entrepreneur or a freelancer post my corporate. While corporate in itself had several changes that I got oriented to, this shift was even more bigger, because once again I had to be on my own. And for all the challenges that are there in a corporate, the challenges of a entrepreneur are even more, because there's no brand per se, there's no systems per se, there's no HR, there's no finance, you are all in all, and there are no customers. I mean, you have to be your own brand. And the large corporates, they have a certain brand name established with which people are able to associate and connect. Whereas here, you are your own brand. The way you position yourself, not just the service you provide, but you as a person is the first brand. And the support systems again are very limited, and you go through periods of ups and downs in terms of business, as well as the challenges in existing business. And one needs to actually actively keep seeking opportunities, keep networking. One has to fundamentally change and adapt very, very rapidly and continuously as an entrepreneur. So these are some of the very significant changes, and the good news is that while these changes are painful, not just any change is painful, but if we reflect, introspect, and learn the valuable lessons from them, it's the most joyous, and that's what I have always been going through.
The seventh leadership lesson under Lead Yourself to Lead Others is resolve conflict. We talk about how to manage conflict at the workplace in the teamwork module. We also talk about conflict and the different types of conflict and conflict resolution techniques in the conflict management module. In this module, I want to talk about how managing conflicts within oneself helps lead others. Now, what causes conflict within us? Conflict of values, conflict of expectations, conflict in perception and perspectives, conflict between our inner voice of wisdom and our inner chatter, the critical noise that goes on and on. These really clutter our mind and drain tons of energy and time, and many a time make issues and conflict seem bigger than what it is. It is important to resolve internal conflict as and when it rears its head. Resolving conflict within oneself creates space, and when we create that space, it shifts our energy, and what it helps is it builds self-awareness. We are more present, we are more empathetic and understanding of the other person and the situation. And because we have created that space within ourselves, we hold the space for the other person to share. We listen actively. We make the other person feel valued and respected. We are telling them that they are important, and this conveys a powerful message. We empower the other person in the process, where the other person feels a sense of shared leadership and shared ownership in resolving the conflict. We're able to focus, pay attention, listen actively, understand the big picture, get to the root of the matter, promote a healthy dialogue and conversation that helps in finding effective solutions to the issues that we are facing. In this way, we create psychological safety, a safe, non-judgmental space in the workplace. As a result, there is harmony, there's trust, there's reliability at the workplace. Managing internal conflict also helps to delegate effectively and be a collaborative leader at the workplace. Eighth leadership lesson under Lead Yourself to Lead Others is delegate effectively. And this is something typically it doesn't come easily to people, delegating and handing over work to others, empowering others to do that work. Because we tend to do everything ourselves, at least when we start out as a manager or a leader, that's the usual tendency. It's like, hey, can't get this done by them because it's taking time, so let us just do it ourselves. So delegation is just not about picking the right person with the right credentials and capabilities and subject matter expertise. It's also about ensuring that the person is a team player and can lead himself or herself from within. There has to be an alignment of core values, vision, and the big picture. The roles and responsibilities need to be very clearly defined, and the individual needs to be empowered and put in control of their work. The basis for effective delegation is trust, reliability, and commitment, and it goes both ways. We have spoken about psychological safety earlier in different contexts, and that is one of the key elements that is necessary for effective delegation to work harmoniously in a workplace. The ninth leadership lesson under Lead Yourself to Lead Others is collaborate, be a collaborative leader. Collaborative leadership, given that there's so much specialization and a wide range of subject matter expertise areas in the world, organizations and leaders need to collaborate across teams in the same organization, with partners, with clients, with service providers, spread across functions and locations. Now, empathy, listening skills, open and transparent communication, empowering the individuals are essential to cultivate as for a collaborative leader. Shared vision, shared goals, shared leadership goes a long way in ensuring effective collaboration. Again, creative psychological safety is key to creating a collaborative environment. Leveraging collaborative tools and establishing and streamlining processes is also very essential so that teams across locations can collaborate for shared tasks. Sundar Pichai, the Google CEO, is very well known for his collaborative leadership. He's a leader who sits and listens actively and quietly to what everyone else has to say before he shares his own opinions. He empowers them and provides equal opportunity to every member to share and exchange their ideas by creating just the right space and environment. He would then converge on an idea that works for everyone.